And we're finally here.
And we are indeed. The time has arrived. How are you doing, Joel?
I'm doing good. Besides, my phone decided to give me the black screen of death earlier. So yeah, that's fun. The new one hasn't even arrived yet, and the old one's giving me attitude.
I'll tell you what, technology, hey?
Yep.
Good. So you're ready for our final conversation in series 2 of fighting for the right to party. Can you believe we've already been through 20 of these? That's mad.
Yes, indeed. I'm just carry on talking, Mike. I've just realised something. I'm going to just I got the wrong header up there. So
it's all good. It's all good. So while Joel is doing the technical reconfiguration, let's give you guys just a little bit of insight as to what to expect from this next 40 to 60 minutes. I use that wide window because Joel and I kind of always, I keep saying we're going to aim for 40 to 45, and then when I look again, the hour's passed. But the fighting for the right to party came about with regards to educating people on what neurodiversity is, but also talking about those neurodivergent individuals that are on a daily basis fighting for their right to just show up in the world as themselves with their uniqueness as they are, without being seen as disabled or less than. And this is one of the big challenges that I see on a regular basis when it comes to conversations around neurodiversity, whether it be ADHD or autism, which is like a spectrum, it's like a whole rainbow. And the reality is not one of us are the same. And being able to embrace our differences is really key. Now, the challenge that we face is, as neurodivergent individuals, we are often labeled as different, but in a negative way, not as in different. Oh, wow, that's exciting. Like Usain Bolt, different. He's fast as heck, and he does the funny, signs and all the rest of it at the end of these races, and a spectacular individual. But there are hundreds and thousands of neurodiverse individuals that have succeeded and made their imprint in the world, yet many don't have that opportunity, purely because their opportunities are taken away from them before they've even had a chance to start to discover their uniqueness or what their special powers or skills are. And I personally have seen this through how children are treated and found as challenging in the school environment, and how often with such little education for teachers around neurodiversity and how to work with neurodiverse individuals, the challenge is that because these individuals are seen as different, they're also seen as problem children. They're often ostracized or pointed at in the classroom as being disruptive, removed, and often because they're not fitting into the usual structure, get seen as a problem within the school environment, as opposed to embracing the differences, understanding how to deal with those individuals. It's I guess for me, it's the equivalent of putting 50 children on the side of a swimming pool and saying, okay, you've got to get to the other side. And certain children have never swam, they've never been in the pool, and then throwing them all in and then screaming at the ones who can't swim for their inadequacies and inabilities, saying that they are disabled when they just haven't been given the opportunity to learn in a way that makes sense to them. So this is one of the key things that, from an education perspective, we really kind of want to keep going on about, getting education bodies to recognize that children need to be able to have these evaluations done much earlier in life, and not once they are seen as a problem, or once they've already gone through a certain amount of trauma, having to mask and fit in with society. So today our conversation is all around has Joel put it on there? Yes, he has. Look at that. The new banner is there. Why neurodiversity is undermined. And there's several reasons for that. But before we get stuck into this, I want to ask Joel, because he's the guy who selected all these topics, and get a bit of insight from you, Joel, as to why you chose this subject.
Well, first of all, I like to make you work. You know that, Mac.
Always.
And the reason why I chose this subject is, well, it is undermined and underrated and underestimated and underestimated as well. I mashed those two words together, and then we got underestimated.
It's okay. We'll create stuff as we go along. Makes life a lot more interesting.
And I just wanted to bring this to change people's minds of and make it like oh shit, these people actually do matter, and we've actually got some special talent here.
When you say that, it sounds like, it's the logical thing. Like, everybody has a special talent or a special skill, but it's not often that we take time to take a breath and realize that those people that think differently, those people that are different, bring a whole new dynamic to our world and to the workplace and to the world generally. Unfortunately, because of the fact that we, since kind of post-World War II, have been living in a world where we have been put into effectively production lines, and it's the FIFO kind of thing, fit in or, and that had its purpose, because unfortunately post-World War, they had to go back into production, they had to go rebuild cities, they had to, rebuild sources of food and manufacturing, and kind of force people into the areas that the major players, governments and organizations and major corporations need in order to fulfill a economic need, as it were. But the world has changed. Now, I say that with a caveat because, watching the news over the last few months and watching the uproar and war, in places all over the world, and without mentioning any specific countries, there's a lot of turmoil in our world at the moment. And, I think one of the frustrations has always been that conformity and the old way of looking at things has always meant that things will bottle up and end up having friction. And the same when it comes to relationships and individuals. And I look at being a parent who is neurodivergent, but also at the same time has children a child that's neurodivergent, but also family members, and watching how easily we can take the easy way out. And the easy way is, either do it my way or go to your room kind of thing. And, Joel, I see you nodding away there. But that's our reality. And that's
sad.
It's extremely sad, because it doesn't allow to take stock and be able to overcome that communication gap and go, okay, well, I don't understand how you function or how you work. You're frustrating me because you don't fit into my world, so now go away. As opposed to, hey, we have two different ways of looking at this. And if we can figure out the common ground, we can figure out how to communicate. And we've got Google Translate. I mean, so that we can speak and communicate with languages around the world.
There are far more accurate translating ones than Google Translate.
Of course, but it's a start, you know.
Yeah.
And it's been around. Ironically, it's been around for well over 10 years. I remember using it maybe even 15 years ago, and I mean, the translation was very colorful because it wasn't. I upset a few people using Google Translate in languages I didn't quite understand. But at the same time, we're still so far away from having, neurodiverse translate, as an example. Being able to translate between neurodivergent and neurotypical. Can you share some of the frustrations that you see and face on a regular basis as a result of this impatience and this mindset of having to fit in or hit the road?
Idiocy comes to mind.
But what happens, and I get that because we've had lots of conversations, so I know where you're going with that. But what are for those people who may not have watched any of our episodes in the past, the opportunity for them today is to kind of, if you've got questions, drop them in the comments. So you can ask Joel questions or myself, or if you want to throw a spanner in the works and throw your own opinion in there, that's okay. This is about education and conversation. However, it's about learning and education the whole way through. So, as we go through this, I really want to unpack how it impacts people like yourself, Joel. When there is this mindset of fit in or kind of go elsewhere, because it's not like you can change your wiring. It's not like you can. And the same applies when it comes to culture and race and all the rest of it. And it's like, for so long, different cultures and religions and subgroups have tried to make everybody fit in with them because they're different, as opposed to embrace them because they're different. So it's quite sad. It's like, well, you're not like me. You don't think like me. You don't look like me. You don't speak like me. You don't eat the kind of food that I have, or whatever. You don't like the sports that I do. You must be a horrible person. And I mean, it's just like the logic, as you say, the word idiocy. But that's, really dumbing it down. But that's kind of what it comes down to. It's people having a total dislike for something that is different, and not allowing that openness to learn and appreciate why, if we were all different, I mean, we were all the same. Just imagine how boring things like football would be. It's like everybody in the world supporting the same team. It would be like, yay, get on the field, go and play. But we wouldn't have an opposition come out on the field because we wouldn't want to play against somebody that's different. Yeah. And then just imagine how boring the world would be. I mean, and it's these differences that allow us. And this is why, when you look at major sports, it's those, we look at the players and we look at the different skill sets they have. And it's like, and this is why the value is so high for players to go play from one club to the next, because there are people that are looking at that individual for what they bring to the table. So why can't we be doing that when it comes to neurodiversity and really understanding what each one of us brings to the table?
Oh, funny you should mention that, Mac. But I was recently, for the umpteenth time, in the last few days, now got Disney Plus. I've now rewatched and watch again. Boy Meets World, and the episode when they were talking about relationships in the classroom. I would like to go so far as, yes, the human race has come a long way, but let's be brutally honest here. People haven't changed in the last 1,000 years with
That's a
their
big
opinions.
statement. That's a big
With their
statement.
opinions, yeah.
Okay, can you elaborate?
Well, if people had changed, we wouldn't be seeing racism, sexism, or any other isms that you care to mention. And people like me wouldn't have to mask. By that I mean hide. So we wouldn't have to I can do this. Go into the shadows, so to speak, so we are not visible. And we
Where have you gone? Oh, there you are.
and we are not yet seen. So yeah. Why? Because we're told that's what apparently is now acceptable. But it's not been now acceptable. It's been this way for the past several odd years. And this is also, you can go so far as you can say this about men as well. I mean, with one particular subject in which we're not on here for, but they haven't changed for the last 400 years in that respect. So society really hasn't changed much.
Yeah, I mean, when you put it in those terms, and we kind of go back generations.
Yeah.
It's the arguments, disputes, and fights have always been the same kind of thing. It's over territory, over money, over power. It's over religious differences. It's over, well, you're not the same as us. It's you have more than me, or I want what you have. It's all these like archaic things, but they still, the uprising is there continuously, and it's the one of the most common reasons for wars breaking out. And we look at where we are in the world right now with, I mean, we've got machine learning, we've got AI, we've got, no wonder the machines are taking over, because they're going, humans, come on, guys, we've only been around with ChatGPT for, a few months. We've already figured out like a lot of the common issues here. So can we take a step forward and realize that the past is the past. You can't change that. Yes, you have to appreciate that and remember the past in order to be able to move forward. But at the same time, we can't judge people based on the past. If we go and say, as an example, we're not going to like people that built the pyramids because we don't like the shape of the pyramids, and today, we don't like those shapes. We prefer spheres or something else because of whatever reason.
Yeah.
To then go back and try and erase history or change history based on how we see things today doesn't really reflect the change in mindset and growth to a stage where we can go, hey, the past is the past. We can look at it, we can learn from it.
Yeah.
But in order to move forward, we have to embrace our differences. We have to see how we can work with those things together. And ultimately, it becomes like a well-oiled machine if we do it properly. I mean, if you look at, whether it be football teams or rugby teams or any team sport, a team isn't made up of identical players. It's made up of individuals who have specific skills that complement each other. And if we look at our world as a team sport, imagine what is possible if we just focus on having the right players in the right place so that it becomes something beautiful to watch. If we look at the oceans and we see how different species, coexist, and it's like a symphony underwater. It's just, for me, I've always enjoyed learning about whether it be fish or birds or different species, because of the fact that yes, there's a natural cycle between different species, but they also learn to coexist. And as humans, we need to look at becoming more of a team player than individual player, because it's almost like the whole world. We've got a few teams that want to kind of play, and they want to work together, and then you've got those individual sports that people are like, nah, I'm bigger and uglier than you, so I can do things my way. So I guess where we're going with this is the fact that, as you said, thousands of years later, we still haven't really moved on and learnt.
No.
And we still have the lack of awareness.
It's like being stuck in. It's like being in your comfort zone and saying, "I'm not going to move out of it." So, example here: history does and is repeating itself. That, I believe, was my phone, which is already broken anyway. So
it's not as broken as he thought it was.
Well, it is now, but but we like as people, we like habits, we like familiarity, and history tends to be familiar. So which is fantastic. You should remember the good times. You should take from the good times as well. But of course, if you take from the bad as well, you're getting too comfortable, and literally, and then you're wondering why things are so shit. This is what you wanted. You haven't really moved out of your comfort zone to actually make anything new about it. You just brought back or brought forward history to become the present.
Interesting. I like that concept. You've brought forward history. And hence why history repeats itself.
Yes.
And this is where, one of the things that, really impact the topic of tonight of, why neurodiversity is undermined, is the fact that there's, lack of awareness and understanding and education, where I was thinking about this concept earlier today, and it was really it was frustrating me, because when you look at various charities around the world, as an example, those charities are run and founded by individuals that have been impacted by something that has made a severe impact on their psyche, their emotion, their maybe mental health, through something that's either happened to them or a loved one or somebody they know of, where they were brought to a place where they thought, I need to drive change and make sure this doesn't happen again. And that only happens through having awareness and then understanding.
It also only happens if you do something about it and not repeat the same thing as you do. So, but obviously humans like to make mistakes. Don't like to make mistakes. Make mistakes. Some enjoy it, but then they make it again. And like, why are you doing it twice?
Well, that vicious cycle that we go through. But here's the thing, though, is you can have two human beings who have pretty much exactly the same kind of life, the same kind of experiences, and for the one, they may have something like cancer, as an example, arrive in their life, and therefore the awareness now changes the way they think about things because they're forced into a situation where they have to confront this thing or ignore it. And the reality is, sometimes ignoring it, ignorance is bliss, as they say. But at the same time, when you have that awareness and you have the understanding of how and why, you have the opportunity to then, investigate, learn, and make changes so that hopefully in the future that could be avoided for other generations. But the other person who's had exactly the same life, same experiences, same growing up, same culture, because they haven't had something like this enforced upon them where they've had to make that distinct decision of, oh, okay, I need to find out about this. I need to find out a way how I can overcome this. They live in the mindset of, well, it won't happen to me until either it does or they're lucky enough not to face it, which means, we may have leaders in place and for many generations who aren't faced with the same things, as a lot of people bring into conversations. There's always, as I was told, three perspectives. Yours, yours, the other person's, and then the right one. And the reality is, if we had a leader in place who was impacted by something on a personal scale that they had powers over to drive change, they would do everything within their power to make sure that those laws were passed to try and help those things along, to find a solution that ultimately would serve them. But because we have leaders that on a regular basis may not have been impacted by these things personally. So as an example, if you've got people in power that have never experienced poverty, they won't ever be able to understand the mental health issues that people who live in poverty have to face, or having to sanitize water, just so that they can have drinking water, or having to have a diet that isn't sufficient in nutrients because they have no choice. So until you're impacted by these things, so with neurodiversity, unless you have a friend or a family member or you yourself are impacted by this, we risk the fact that it will be overlooked for several more generations until we, one of the things that really impressed me when I first spoke to you and we were talking how do we make change? How do we educate people? And you're like, well, have people that are neurodiverse actually involved in running these organizations, have people that are neurodiverse being asked how to improve the workplace environment or the education system. And it makes such obvious sense, but a lot of organizations or things are brought up by other individuals that are impacted maybe because of a friend or a family member, but not directly. So therefore, until you have that direct impact, you can't really relate to that experience on a real level. And I am boring the heck out of Joel, by the way, because it is late at night and he's been going all day. But he also has a puppy that chases him everywhere. So
they're allowed to make the same mistakes again because that's what their brain does. I mean, humans are supposed to be more intelligent than monkeys. Like, I granted some aren't, but if that's the case, then we should really start embracing each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the other things that we have is and for me it's when we talk about the other thing that impacts this topic is cultural and societal norms. And the challenge that we have is you and I may have a certain cultural and societal norms based on what we've experienced here in the UK. But when you look at neurodiversity and you start unpacking it and you start looking at how it's looked at in different cultures and parts of the world, it's quite frightening. When I first started coming across, the whole neurodiverse space and autism and ADHD and all these things, in some countries, the moment an individual is seen to be different, they put into a almost asylum type environment where they are removed from society because they are, as you've referred to before, less than or different, or because they don't understand them. It's almost like, what? Whoops, we have an alien in our midst. Let's take them and put them over there where we don't know how to deal with them, and we'll get other people to deal with that so that we can live our lives without exposure to that. And they're, I don't even want to go into certain countries, but it's a lot of countries don't acknowledge neurodiversity or these differences. I mean, we live in a world where even sexual orientation isn't recognized by many countries. So never mind the fact that your brain is wired differently. It's almost like if you only had one arm, you'd have to explain, well, actually the other one's there. I'm just not using it at the moment, so I left it at home. It's I don't know, it sounds ridiculous, but it's those doing things to fit in that societal norms and cultural constructs don't allow for us to be able to learn as quickly as we should, because there's different points of view on these things. And then the medical model of disability, as an example, if you look at, and one of the things you and I spoke about a few years ago is I saw in Hertfordshire they were doing a summer camp, and I was like, oh, okay, and it was summer camp for disabled students or students with disabilities. And when I looked at the list of disabilities, it was all the neurodiverse individuals on there, and I was like, interesting. So you're saying because we are different, we are disabled, therefore kind of less, and then you have special training by neurotypical individuals to teach us how to be more like them. And I'm like, well, okay, that's similar to what happens in certain countries where they go, you don't conform to what we believe in, and your religion is different, so we're going to stick you in these cleansing camps so that we can train you until you are more like us and conform. And and this is what happens with our schooling system, is we have to try and why neurodiverse individuals have to mask so often to fit in. And then the next thing is the fear of unknown. So let me ask you this question, Joel. How often do you think you've been misunderstood in life? Once, twice?
Since the day I existed.
So again, why do you think, do you think, let me ask it this way. Do you think that you were misunderstood because you weren't communicating properly, or was it because individuals that misunderstood you maybe had a fear of trying to understand why you work differently?
I'd say a bit of both, because as you know, Mac, I don't have a filter.
Yep. And some days we have to put that in, but it's part of the neurodiverse wiring. Less fluff and more direct to the point, which helps, but also can make people that are used to people having a bit more fluff around feel a little bit more vulnerable, should we say, because they kind of it comes across as a bit coarse and harsh. So if you say to somebody, I don't like your hair, might just be a straightforward opinion. Like, I don't like your hair because you have more hair than I do. I have one, which is over here somewhere in the middle. But if I said to you, well, Joel, I don't like your hair, and I put no context to it, I'd come across as extremely rude and arrogant. So it's, again, having to conform and fill in that context. So the fear of unknown is an interesting one, because that's typically why people become
Ignorant.
ignorant, but why people are misunderstood as well is because it's easier to ignore the problem and send it elsewhere than to deal with it and get to know. I know as a parent, it's the easy thing is to send your child to their room when they are playing up, because you think that will teach them a lesson so they won't do it in the future. The problem is you still don't know why they're acting up. So all you're doing is sending them to the room, they freak out, you come back and you think, well, next time, because I said so, they're not going to act up. In the meantime, you don't realize that, hey, maybe they've got a nail stuck in their foot and that's why they're crying. And you just going, well, go to your room and keep quiet. Doesn't solve the issue. So if we take time out to get to understand what the cause and effect is, there's much more opportunity for us to work in sync and work as a team, as a well-oiled machine.
Yes. So, and perhaps you have more peaceful world as opposed to what we're currently in.
Well, I think one of the things that is a reality of life is there's always going to be conflicts. There's always going to be.
Yes, but we don't need to add to it.
No, of course not. And there's always a difference of opinion and things like that. And I think the difference of opinion is what makes the world such an interesting place, because it allows us to see things. Well, it gives us an opportunity to see things from a different point of view, but it doesn't always allow us to want to be open to seeing the other side or the other view. Because, just because one party sees the other one as wrong doesn't mean that they're not both wrong or they're not both right. So one of the other challenges that we face with neurodiversity and, why it's undermined is often it comes down to economic consideration. When it comes to the support, what finances are available? Does your council or your local area have a process in place to be able to support parents that have neurodivergent children? Or does the workplace have enough resources in place to be able to support neurodiverse individuals? So those are things that over the last, let me ask you this question, over the last 2 years, have you learned more about what's available for people that are neurodivergent than what you were aware of prior to the last 2 years when this wasn't part of your mission?
Oh yes, absolutely.
And why?
There's several reasons why. The most obvious one is, I guess, that there are people out there who want to make a difference but have no clue how to, because they're not neurodiverse, or as I like to call it, super special. And so, as you said, Mac, it's if more people who are neurodiverse were running the show, I think it will make a hell of a lot more sense.
Well, I think
to other people as to why we are what we are.
Absolutely, I think that it's we've seen a lot of change over the last 10, 15 years when it comes to things like more women in power, which is about bloody time. um, because they are wired to understand that maternal thing of caring, and sometimes the paternal wiring is not such a good thing when it's
Don't
all
have a
about
clue.
it's all about that fight or flight and protect, and but it's not necessarily about building team environments where we can all thrive and work together. And when we look at the funds available, and you and I, through investigation and research and networking and getting to know a lot of organizations, we are getting exposed to and finding out that actually there's a lot more help than we realize, but it's almost like the best kept secret of like, hey, this place here in the UK, in this little community, they have a solution for the community because of a parent or a leader who has been impacted by it personally and therefore drove change and managed to get that kind of support available, and had to do fundraising and all these amazing things. But it's still the best kept secret for the rest of the world, which had they had exposure to that learning, we'd all grow so much faster. So, from a technology perspective, I'm really hoping there's somebody out there who, yes, we are doing a lot of data mining on how banks work and how medical research works, and that's where AI is really going to be able to be very powerful. But if we can use that AI to look into the databases of all these tiny little organizations that have found solutions and ways to communicate and to improve the lives of those neurodiverse individuals, by supporting them with different tools and different skill sets and education, just imagine how much faster the world could get to having a neurodiverse, neurotypical translator in place. And I think that could make a huge, huge difference. What other thoughts come to mind to you when it comes to, why you feel neurodiversity is being undermined?
The lack of funds, the lack of interest, almost lack of interest, really, in learning anything new. I think there is a lack of interest.
So one of the things that I've learned is there was a statement that I learned years ago, which says that a lack of knowledge is a lack of interest. And initially, if somebody says to you, I'm not interested, like initially I would kind of go, oh, that's a bit rude. That's like how cold, how careless. But it's actually, I've learned that it's, if there's a lack of interest, it can be okay, because just because there's no interest in this subject doesn't mean they don't have interest in another subject. And if everybody was interested in the same thing, the other problems wouldn't be solved.
That is true. This is very true.
So with that said, I think the ownership comes down to us as individuals to embrace those individuals who have got the interest, and then to pool resources and bring these people together so that those that are interested or impacted by neurodiversity can learn and thrive and grow together. Because eventually, everybody is going to come across somebody who's neurodivergent, or as is happening every day, on LinkedIn, as an example, just one platform, that I see people all of a sudden in their headlines going, proudly dyslexic, or ADHD or autistic or whatever it is. And 10 years ago, nobody would be putting things like that out there, because they wanted to mask and protect and not look different. But now people are starting to embrace that. But there's so many more adults that were never they've felt misunderstood all their lives, and all of a sudden they get this diagnosis of, oh, by the way, this is why you act like you do. And it's like, that makes sense. Now I can function differently. I can work better because I know what tools to support me. It's like trying to cross an ocean without a boat, and realizing, well, you know what? You can get across the ocean much easier and avoid the sharks if you had the right tools, like a boat. But if you didn't know that a boat was available, then that makes your choices and options much harder. So,
it does indeed.
When we look at and I keep coming back to this one, but the education system, and we both multiple times said that the education system is broken. But I think, based on what we were just talking about now, the reality is we need to bring more people together that are aware of neurodiversity, because we know that we'll still have conversations and somebody goes neuro who, and that means there's still a long way to go for education. Not everybody is in the right place, in the right timing, or the right frame of mind to be able to take this on board, because they might be dealing with another challenge in life. So therefore, it's down to us as individuals who have got this on the forefront of our minds, who have got the spare capacity to be able to take this on and soldier on and be the spokespeople that can drive change. So if you're watching this, whether it's recorded or you're watching this live, we'd love to hear about individuals that you know of that have made a difference out there, that are making an impact.
We would.
I think, Joel, the people that you have met and already been interviewed by, and the different individuals that have kind of come out of the woodwork, have been spectacular. We want to be able to share these people with you in Series 3, because I have no choice, by the way. Series 3 has been, in fact, Series 2, I didn't have a choice in either.
No, you had no choice in that either, no.
So, I think the beauty of this is working with somebody like Joel, who doesn't give you a choice to just sit in the sidelines. It's either get in or... And it's been a pleasure to go along this journey. It's been, it definitely hasn't been easy for either of us, Joel, because it's been a learning curve the whole way along. And every time there's a new obstacle or challenge, sometimes you can sit there and think, okay, what now? How now? But we want to learn from those people that are out there that have gone out there and fought against the different ways of thinking, that have been able to come out on top in the workplace, that have been able to succeed in business or in school and education systems where people have tried something different and it's working. Because the more we share what's working, the quicker we can make this world a much better place. What are your thoughts on that, Joel? I've been rambling on.
You've hit the nail on the head again, Mac, and of course, the quicker we do something about it, the better the world will be, and you can start with something small. So, example, when I'm going to actually shine a light onto Mac here. When I first met Mac, I had no idea what even LinkedIn was or what I was to do on it. As I thought it was just another social media to meet at that point, ladies.
It's not Tinder.
And since then I've done how many courses, Mac, with you? 3, 4.
3. Going into number 4 now, yeah.
Going into number 4, exactly. And every single time I do this, I learn something new. So if you like to learn something new, start off with yourself and start off with the platform you're currently working with. And if you like technology like I do, join us. Sorry, Mike, I just had to pitch. I just had to put that in there Because otherwise, I would know what you would be like otherwise.
Always catch me off guard, Joel. I like that. Keep me on my toes.
Yeah. So yeah, join us and learn something new about technology and how you can reach more people by sitting on your ass in front of the computer, like we are right now.
Well, that's part of it. Some of it we do face to face, believe it or not. But yeah, LinkedIn has provided us with a platform to be able to meet so many incredible people out there. I won't even start
Real
mentioning
people.
names. Yeah, real people, and this is the part that most people miss. They don't realize the powerful tool that they have access to be able to build relationships, collaborations, to learn, to educate yourself, and take you to that next level. I mean, the magic that is possible, and I know what we are going to achieve over the next couple of years, just through RockstarX and being able to connect amazing people around the world. I know that Series 3 is going to give us an opportunity to share some, and show some light onto some amazing individuals. So please, if you know some neurodiverse superstars that are just, they need to have the limelight on them, and we need and the great things they do needs to be shared. Please, let us know. Go and comment, tag them in the comments of this event, and say, hey, so and so, you need to share your story with Mac and Joel, and let's share the best practices, the good stories, the tough stories, the hard stories, because it's all about getting exposure on these things, and that's the part that we enjoy. And some of these stories are just mind-blowing and inspirational, and they need to be shared. So I look forward to hearing from each one of you and hearing your stories. I know people from all around the world that are impacted by either neurodiverse family members or friends, or themselves being neurodiverse and not even having a clue, just understanding why they think they're broken, and in the meantime, when they find out, I just work differently, and they start using the right tools and having the right support, their world changes. And that's what we want to see. We want to see that light bulb moment where people go, aha, okay. Let's make this world a much more beautiful place by sharing our experiences, growing together, and taking RockstarX to become a household name, where when people think of RockstarX, they think about the potential, they think about the beauty that is within each one of us, and really just cultivating that hunger for learning about our differences and being like a sponge to absorb that and not see that as a negative in any way.
I'm going to put some more pressure on you, Mac.
Here we go.
Here we go, indeed. It will start. There you go. It starts November. Season 3.
Awesome stuff. Well, start getting those names in so that we can start having you on our list, and start getting those guests on our lives.
Yes, the good list, not the other kind of list.
Yeah. This is not the naughty or nice list.
Now I'm going to say the shit list, but no. But yes, also, and yeah. So if you want to connect with me, myself, and Mac, and of course Mac being the Sean Connery of LinkedIn here.
I was worried where this was going to go, but I can cope with that.
If you connect with him, you will not be sorry.
And likewise, if you go and connect with Joel, you also won't be sorry. In fact, he might put you on your toes and push you outside your comfort zone to do some incredible things. So watch the space.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in the world. and of course, apparently the aliens that Elon Musk seems to think that we are. And we will see you in season 3, unless, of course, you join Mac's 12-week program, in which case we'll see you earlier.
We've only got a couple of spaces left, so do reach out to Joel or myself if you want.
Well done, congratulations. Yes, so this season has been real, and we look forward to seeing you again in the next one. But if you want to, but before we go, this we stream on StreamYard. He's a piece of piss too, actually. It's an expression to actually use. So again, feel free to use our special code, which I believe is right here. There we go. Going across the screen as we speak to get 14. I think it's 14 days free trial on this amazing platform. And here comes StreamYard to tell you a few more, and then we will see you again soon.